My name is Pensri. I'm 76 years old, and I spent more than 50 years of my life carrying something that was slowly crushing me from the inside, something that weighed more than any physical burden ever could, something that I held so tightly, so desperately, so completely that I forgot I was holding it. It became part of me, part of how I breathed, part of how I walked through the world, part of how I experienced every single moment of every single day. And I didn't know it was there. I didn't know that this invisible weight was the reason I could never fully rest, never fully relax, never fully be present in my own life. I thought the heaviness was just how life felt. I thought the mental exhaustion was normal. I thought the constant noise in my head, the replaying, the rehearsing, the remembering, the regretting, was simply what it meant to have a mind. But it wasn't. It was what it meant to be carrying something that should have been set down a long time ago. And tonight I want to tell you what that something was, what you're probably carrying too, and how to let it go so you can feel mentally free again. Because that freedom exists. I promise you it does. I've tasted it, and it is more beautiful than anything I could have imagined during all those decades of carrying. What I was carrying was the past, but not just memories of the past. Everyone has those. What I was carrying was the past in a way that kept it alive, that kept it breathing, that kept it happening over and over again inside my mind, as if it was still occurring right now in this present moment. I was holding on to things that had been done to me, words that had been spoken, choices that had been made by people I trusted, betrayals that had cut so deep they changed the shape of who I was. And I was replaying them, reliving them, feeling them fresh and raw and burning as if they had just happened, even when years had passed, even when decades had passed, even when the people involved had moved on or forgotten or died. I was still there, still in that moment, still feeling that pain, still carrying that weight, because I didn't know how to put it down. Because putting it down felt like saying it didn't matter, like saying what happened was okay, like letting them off the hook. And I wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't willing to let go of my pain, because my pain felt like the only justice I had. But here is what I didn't understand for most of my life. And here is what I need you to hear tonight with everything you have. Holding on to the past doesn't punish anyone but you. The person who said those words has moved on with their life. They're probably not thinking about what they said. They might not even remember. The person who made those choices is living their life without carrying the weight of what they did. The person who betrayed you has probably found new things to care about, new people to interact with, new days to fill. They are free, and you are in prison, a prison made entirely of your own refusal to let go. A prison whose walls are built from memories you keep alive through your own attention, through your own energy, through your own choice to hold on. And I say choice deliberately, because it is a choice. I know it doesn't feel like one. I know it feels like the pain holds you, not the other way around. I know it feels like you can't let go even if you wanted to. But that's what the pain wants you to believe. It wants you to believe you have no power over it, that it controls you, that it's permanent, that it will never release its grip. But it's not true. You are the one holding. You are the one choosing every single day to pick that weight back up and carry it again. And you can choose to put it down, not easily, not painlessly, but you can choose. I held on to a particular hurt for over 30 years, something someone did to me when I was in my early 40s, something that felt unforgivable at the time, something that felt like it defined everything about my life from that moment forward. I was a different person before it happened and a different person after. And the person I became after was harder, colder, more guarded, more suspicious, more alone. Because I carried that hurt everywhere I went. It colored everything I saw. Every new relationship was viewed through the lens of that betrayal. Every kind word was suspected of hiding cruelty. Every moment of happiness was shadowed by the fear that it would be taken away just like before. I wasn't living in the present, I was living in the past, permanently, endlessly, without even knowing I was doing it. And every year that I held on to it, every year that I replayed the events, reimagined the conversations, refelt the anger and the injustice, I believed I was doing something useful. I believed my anger was a form of accountability, that as long as I stayed angry, I was holding that person responsible for what they did. That my pain was somehow their punishment. But they weren't being punished. They probably didn't know I was still angry. They probably didn't care. The only person being punished was me, every single day, through my own choice to keep carrying something that should have been buried long ago. If something in what I'm saying is reaching you, if you recognize your own carrying in what I describe, then I want you to know that you're not alone in this. Most of us carry the past in ways we don't even recognize. We carry old hurts like treasures, protecting them, polishing them, keeping them safe in the most protected parts of our hearts. And we don't see that these treasures are actually chains. If this message is showing you something you needed to see, maybe you'll want to stay close to this space. Return when you need reminding. Because letting go is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice, a daily choice. And sometimes we need someone to remind us that we're holding again when we didn't even notice we picked it back up. The turning point came when I finally understood what letting go actually meant. For years, decades really, I had resisted the idea of letting go because I thought it meant something it didn't. I thought letting go meant pretending it didn't happen, erasing the past, acting as if the pain wasn't real, saying that what was done to me was acceptable, forgiving in a way that felt like betraying myself, letting the person off the hook when they didn't deserve to be let off the hook. And I refuse to do any of those things. I would rather carry the weight forever than do any of those things. But that's not what letting go means, not at all. And understanding this changed everything. Letting go doesn't mean it didn't happen. It did happen. It was real. It was painful. It changed you. Letting go doesn't mean it was okay. It wasn't okay. It was wrong. It was unjust. It was something that should never have happened. Letting go doesn't mean you're forgiving the person in the sense of saying what they did was acceptable. You're not condoning anything. You're not excusing anything. Letting go simply means you're choosing to stop carrying it. You're choosing to put the weight down. You're choosing to stop letting something that happened in the past continue to poison your present moment, your present life, your present peace. Think of it this way. Imagine you're holding a heavy stone, and you've been holding it for 30 years. Your arms ache, your back is broken. Your whole body is shaped around this weight you refuse to put down. And someone comes to you and says, "Why don't you put it down?" And you say, "I can't. If I put it down, that means what happened was okay. If I put it down, it's like it never happened. If I put it down, they win." But none of that is true. Putting the stone down doesn't change what happened. It doesn't mean it was okay. It doesn't mean anyone wins except you. You win because you're no longer destroying yourself, carrying something that serves absolutely no purpose. You win because your hands are finally free to hold something else, something that nourishes you, something that gives you life instead of draining it. I put my stone down 5 years ago, after more than 30 years of carrying it. And what I discovered on the other side of that release was something I never could have predicted, something I never would have believed if someone had told me. The past didn't change. What happened still happened. The person who hurt me still hurt me. The injustice was still unjust. But my relationship to all of it completely transformed. I could remember without reliving. I could acknowledge without drowning. I could look back without being pulled back. The memories were still there, but they had lost their electrical charge, their power to hijack my present moment and drag me into suffering. They became just memories, part of my history, part of my story, but not my prison, not my identity, not the filter through which I experienced everything else. And the mental freedom that followed was unlike anything I had experienced in decades. My mind, which had been so crowded, so heavy, so constantly full of old pain and old conversations and old anger, became spacious, open, light, clear. There was room to think about new things, room to feel new feelings, room to be fully, completely present to what was actually happening in my life right now, instead of being constantly pulled backward into what had already happened and could never be changed. I didn't realize how much mental space the past had been occupying until I let it go. It was like living in a house where every room is filled with old furniture, old boxes, old junk that you haven't touched in years but refuse to throw away. And then one day you clear it all out and suddenly there's space. Space to breathe, space to move, space to live. That's what mental freedom feels like finally having room in your own mind. The process of letting go is not instant. I want to be completely honest about that. It's not something you do once and then it's done forever. It's a practice, a daily practice, something you choose again and again. Every time you notice yourself holding, you choose to release. Every time you find yourself replaying, you gently bring yourself back to the present. Every time the old anger or hurt rises, you acknowledge it, you feel it, and then you let it pass through instead of holding on to it. It's not about never feeling the feelings. The feelings will still come, but they'll pass through instead of staying. They'll visit instead of moving in permanently. And gradually, over time, they'll come less often, with less intensity, with less power to pull you out of the present and back into the past. There's something else I need to tell you about letting go. Something that surprised me deeply when I experienced it. When you let go of the past, you don't just gain freedom from pain. You gain freedom to feel joy. Because as long as you're carrying old pain, you can't fully experience new joy. The pain takes up too much space. It uses too much energy. It casts too much shadow. But when you put it down, when you clear that space, joy can enter, love can enter, lightness can enter. Experiences you had forgotten were possible become possible again. Laughter that comes from somewhere deep and real instead of from the surface. Connection that goes beyond the superficial because you're no longer guarding yourself against being hurt. Presence that allows you to actually taste your food, actually feel the sun, actually hear the music, actually be here in this moment, fully and completely, without one foot always in the past. I want to ask you something now. And I'm asking because this question changed my life when I finally had the courage to answer it honestly. What are you carrying? What past hurt? What old wound? What ancient injustice are you still holding in your hands, still replaying in your mind, still feeling in your body as if it just happened yesterday? Be honest with yourself. Not to judge yourself, not to feel bad about yourself, but to see clearly. Because you cannot let go of something you don't know you're holding. And most of us don't know. We've been holding so long that the weight feels normal. It feels like part of who we are. It feels like something we can't put down, because putting it down would mean losing part of ourselves. But you're not losing anything by letting go of the past. You're gaining everything. You're gaining your present, your peace, your freedom, your life. The life that's been waiting for you on the other side of your holding. The life that has been right here, right now, all along, but that you couldn't experience because your hands were too full of yesterday to receive today. Before we part tonight, I want to know something from you. What are you ready to let go of? What have you been carrying that you're finally tired of carrying? Where are you listening from right now? And what brought you to these words tonight? I ask because sometimes naming what you're holding is the first crack in the wall, the first ray of light in the darkness, the first step toward putting it down. And because knowing that someone else understands, that someone else has walked the same path and found their way to freedom, can give you the courage to take that step. You're not alone in this. I walked this path. Millions of others have walked it, and now it's your turn. My name is Pensri. I'm 76 years old. I live in a small temple surrounded by trees that let go of their leaves every autumn without clinging, without arguing, without insisting that the leaves should stay because they were beautiful ones. They simply open their branches and let go. And in that release, they make room for new growth, for new beauty, for new life. I've learned from them. I've learned that holding on is not strength. It's exhaustion disguised as loyalty to yourself. And letting go is not weakness. It's the bravest, most loving thing you can do for yourself. The thing you're carrying, the past you're holding, the pain you're keeping alive through your own grip, you can put it down. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when the person apologizes, not when justice is served. Now, in this moment, in this breath, you can choose to begin the process of releasing what no longer serves you. And in that choice, in that first moment of opening your hands after years of clenching, you'll feel something you may have forgotten was possible. Lightness, space, freedom, mental freedom. The freedom that has been waiting for you all along. Right here, right now, on the other side of what you've been holding. All you have to do is let it go. Open your hands, take a breath, and let it fall. You won't lose yourself. You'll find yourself. The self that has been buried under the weight. The self that has been waiting patiently, quietly, lovingly for you to finally set yourself free.